I will say our next guest really embraces life and lives it to its fullest. We're happy to bring in Melissa DeVitri. You're a social media consultant, but also a founder of Techno. But that's just the beginning. You're an artist, you're an entrepreneur. Great to have you with us here on the show.
Thank you so much. Yes, it is a cold, rainy day in the D, so I hope I can shine for everyone to hear more about my story. I'm blessed to be here today.
Oh, well, we're so great to have you as well. And what has it been like for you as an entrepreneur over this past year?
Throughout the pandemic, it really taught me how to grow up quickly, to be able to be self-reliant and be independent. I actually had to move from Detroit to Miami to redevelop my business model because we host in-person events. I manage an all-lady agency called DI Techno, and we would host techno events and art parties. But with the pandemic, things had to close down and we had to restructure ourselves. So for the last 8 months, I've been orchestrating an art festival in Miami for Detroit. And this past weekend, we unfolded it. So it was kind of like if you focus on something, especially during the time where everyone has to stay at home, it really makes you think creatively. So now I've enhanced my communication skills so that I can kind of embrace all of these different things to make systems work.
So with that, Melissa, are you in Miami now?
No, I'm actually visiting my family. I fly to Miami on Tuesday, just a little bit of downtime. But yeah, I came in. It's so funny. My team's like, you came in, dropped a banger in Detroit, and then you're heading back. I have an art gallery in Wynwood, so it's been closed since I've been gone, and I'm really missing it.
And so with that too, then, but how are you able to keep juggling so many projects and keep revenue flowing when some of your main ones are completely shut down right now?
Yeah, it's been tough. I've had to learn how to trust other people to manage my things. I've had to be just let faith guide me, and it's hard to see other people having power over things that I've worked really hard. So I'm just giving responsibilities to the different ladies that work for the agency and just kind of letting them take it. There are times where I'm not sleeping and I'm just super passionate, but it's the world is changing all the time. So you have to adapt fast, and today is going to be different from tomorrow.
But do you think your background as an entrepreneur has also helped you navigate COVID-19 a little bit easier than some other people that are maybe, tied to those routines, that 9 to 5 of going to work and doing A, B, C, D, and E?
Yeah, I used to work a schedule like that when I worked in advertising, automotive clients. And when I went to university for engineering, I realized I could be an entrepreneur. I've got the skills. It takes a lot of risks, but with those risks comes the rewards. I financially put myself at a huge risk to host these events, and I'm not quite sure what relationships are now with, things are always changing in directions that we have to keep up. So we're falling forward with challenges. That's why we work independently, because it's not a 9 to 5. Sometimes it's a 9 to 9 or a 9 to midnight. Depends on what the weekend looks like.
So with that too, when we're talking about some of these events and putting that financial risk out there, but yet at the end of the day, you don't know what's going to be happening because you're trying to plan several months out. And some of these COVID-19 restrictions have changed almost weekly.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you can relate to how I'm feeling, because the last 9 months, we've had to hide this event under the radar. We weren't allowed to talk about it on social media. Every time we talk about it, asking for sponsorships, the city would call us and say, you're going to jeopardize the event. You have to take that down. Well, how can we talk about an event that we're planning and raise sponsorships if we can't even facilitate that? So we went to the phones and we started calling and getting micro grants and all that. But that's because we think differently. We're creatives. So we don't do the normal playbook. We exhaust all options, social media, email, calling, and we raise the fundings ourselves. So 2 weeks before the event on May 5th, the CDC and the special permits are finally saying, hey, we've reached the vaccination point. I don't know the actual terms, but you can now talk about your event online. So 2 weeks to showtime. We're falling forward again.
So I have to ask you, you really are like a beacon of bright light. You can just tell it's in your spirit. It's a part of who you are. But you're doing all of this, and I did catch part of your TED Talks in Detroit. But you're also doing this, and you you just live life, and you don't let situations get you down or stop you. And so at this point, I guess I want to ask you, do you want to talk about your rare disease or no?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's special. I'm walking into my disability suit. The pandemic made me sort of grow more into it because the resources were exhausted. But I was born with a condition called sacral genesis. And so in this moment I'm using forearm crutches to move full time. But half of my life I spent in a wheelchair with body braces. And when I became 26, I realized I'm going to be on all these heavy drugs to control pain. I'm going to have to learn how to control this mindset by myself. So I moved to Indonesia for a year, completely off the grid, became holistic in Bali. And then I came back to the States, started the agency, and now we're here today. It's just one of those, like, I knew my mind would be strong enough because my situation, you have to be strong in this. So that's why I think I'm like a very good leader and a good boss, because I always say to myself, there's nothing that can't be done to me that hasn't already been done to me. Like, I'm exhausting my body all day long, my shoulders, my arms, my everything. And then I keep saying, why do I keep getting up? Why do I keep getting up? I get up and I take the punches and I fall, but then I get back up again because I got a whole team behind me that's relying on me to be there for them. They like kind of look at me as their energy. Like, okay, if she can do it, I can do it. It's one of those like kind of sort of excuses, like you have everything and I have like limited mobility. I can barely move. And I'm working in the nightclub industry where it's not accessible. So one of my missions as a disability advocate is to make events and art festivals and electronic festivals like for people like myself with wheelchairs and prosthetics. Because 9 out of 10 times before I even show up to my event, whether it's Miami or Detroit, elevators aren't working, the bathrooms are closed for accessibility. I'm kind of making people feel bad in a way that changes it. Like, what is wrong with you? This should be open. Like, but oh, we didn't know you were coming. I shouldn't have to tell you I'm coming. Things like that.
We're talking with Melissa DeVitri. She's a social media consultant and the founder of Techno. And you're using your disability as a voice for so many other people. What has been the response from the community? Because you also blog about your rare disease.
Yeah, the response from the community has been almost like a weird feeling because people will see me on the news and then they'll show up at the event with flowers. And then others will send me these like long messages like, this whole weekend I came down to meet you and everything I knew would happen. It like started something passionate about them. Like one of the artists is like, I sold my painting. Another one said, this is the first time I've ever done an art festival. Another person said, well, I booked a show. So every person that has come to me has given me some special story about like me doing it and being confident gave them the confidence too to like do that thing. Like so many people have been sleeping this year and they said that I was like a firecracker.
That is so true. I had a friend once and he grew up, his mother was blind. And we would see him as an overachiever. And he said, well, when you're living with someone with a disability, you have no excuse. Because if they didn't use it as an excuse to stop them in life, how can you not live life to the fullest as well? So sometimes do you look at your rare disease as kind of a gift?
Yeah, it's sort of a blessing and a curse, right? Like I can feel everyone watching me all the time, and it gives me sometimes anxiety because I'm already trying to process my own thoughts, and I can't go anywhere without receiving attention that I don't want. but I'm realizing that they're just curious and I need to educate them. But it just takes that balance of separating those emotions with being like, like you're going to be different forever. So you're going to either have to like enjoy it and love it and use it, or feel sorry for yourself. So every day I wake up and I listen to motivational podcasts and I write a list, and then I, take care of my hands holistically, and then I start my day like ready to go.
Who's your favorite podcaster?
I like the voice of Denzel Washington. It's more or less I like the way that people kind of like tell me how to do the thing, and he's just got that tough like that tough attitude.
I always start off with the Daily Boost.
Okay.
It's like a quick 8-9 minute story. And he does a good job, I think, of trying to make you bring it back to your life, if that makes sense. So again,
a favorite of mine, and of course Tony Robbins. Like I just put on like a cycle and it repeats, and then it starts with leadership. So I let that kind of go through me, and then I get into my chats with the teams, and it just trickles like a long tail effect.
So Melissa, if I can ask you, as someone who had to move to Miami throughout the pandemic, what's it been like for you to see the different response from our state leaders and how, things have been operating in the two different states? Because Florida is so different from Michigan.
It's been twilight because I'm selling VIP tables in Miami for events that are like 5, 6, 7 in the morning, and it's like normal behavior. And then people are together and there's no mask necessary. But then when I came back to Michigan and I sat down and didn't have my mask on, and a woman like yelled at me across the restaurant, and I was like, well, you could have been nice about it. And then she's like, please. And so it's just, I try not to like say anything. I just keep it on because I feel like it kind of avoids extra confrontation, because Florida that was the move. Like, you need to move to Florida because you have to keep your business in motion. I didn't want to shut down like everybody else and collect unemployment. That wouldn't work for me. I have 6 ladies that work for me, and they all have families and moms and things going on. They depend on me. So I recycled what I knew, moved to Miami, did multiple things. And now I've been more successful in my career in this last year than I've ever had, because I had to focus. The pandemic made me kind of grow up in a way.
How do you maintain that self-discipline to complete that project and see it through?
That's very hard. I look outside my window, and like when I'm in Miami, and I say, what do you have to complain about? That's what I tell myself. You have beautiful weather. You have a really nice view. You have ways to get around. Like, what do you have to complain about? So it's an everyday conversation that I say to myself. But I like to wake up before everybody else. So I like to be up at like 5, 6 in the morning, maybe earlier, because I feel like if I'm the first one up, then maybe it'll be my happiness that makes other people kind of like, oh, I got to do that thing. It's just more or less like a internal agenda.
Melissa Dimitri with us here on the MegaCast. She's a social media consultant and the founder for DI Techno. And with that, Melissa, while Florida is still rocking and rolling and partying, Michigan, things are starting to ease up. People are more comfortable, and they're expecting 2021 is going to be a crazy year. Do you have any events coming up here in Michigan?
So I'm planning on doing perhaps a festival at the end of September near Belle Isle. And then in between those points, opening art galleries inside breweries. So I have a lot of art, and there's a bunch of walls in Detroit. So I want to be able to keep my energy and my creative vision as a thought leader from Detroit. Like, even though I'm not here presently, I want you to still know my story and feel like you are with me.
And with that too, like, we do know you're a social media consultant. So social media is not new for you, but for so many businesses over the past year, they've had to really embrace social media. What advice would you give them as we start to come out of the pandemic?
I would say many of my accounts have been removed from censorship. So there is a lot of things that are going on in social media as far as like algorithms. Be authentic as possible. That is the only way to really reach the people that you want, is to be authentic. Don't follow the trends, run ads properly, because that's how you get that real consumer or person that you can trust and repeat. And like, try different things. Like, I've never been a TikTok person, but it seems to be the way for small businesses to make a huge dent. So even though I don't like doing it, I'm kind of like teaching myself to do it because it will make me successful.
We all grow when we force ourselves to learn new things.
Yeah, I would say so. And then I was just saying this to a person that I did a tour with for an event yesterday, and he's like, how do you keep up with all of the AI and the machine learning? I'm like, it's just templates and processes and having like spreadsheets of like certain things. Like, you don't want to spend all day in a conversation with someone, like 50 messages. Give them a bulk of information, send them to an FAQ, give them an email, but you have to divide your time. Like, because social media will consume you. I have 200,000 followers, and my blog has over 80,000 email subscribers. I started that in 2005, and it's all organic. So it can happen as long as you're authentic.
That is such good advice. Melissa Dimitri with us here on the MegaCast. She is a social media consultant, but also a founder of DI Techno. You're also like a blogger, an artist. You do live shows. And if I can ask you, Melissa, give us a little bit of an inside story, because as someone who does a lot of these after-hour shows and events, I'm sure you have some stories to tell. Just give us one.
Yeah, it's funny when celebrities will come to my events, because I'll just like kind of pretend like I don't know them. I'll be like, I need your ID, and I like take them through like a normal people process. And then when they're done, I'm like, oh, I thought that was you. Like, I just love making people laugh, because they're just like, oh, she didn't recognize. So it's moments like that that makes your job like kind of fun.
And two, the interesting thing is to see people's real names.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, and I'd be like, is this really you? And then it's just cute. Like, for example, that was Stacy Pullen. He came to my party last weekend. He's a Detroiter. He just laughed so hard. He's like, I saw you in Miami 2 weeks ago. I was like, yeah. It's like I when Detroit comes to Miami, I just go just to say, hey, anything you need, here's my number. Call me. Because you want to have people in these big cities.
If I can ask you too, what's it been like for you to say that you're from Detroit? Because we do know the narrative is shaping around the Motor City. It used to be, I'm from Detroit. Oh, I'm sorry. Now the response is typically, I hear great things about Detroit. What's it been like for you?
So a lot of the people I've met in Miami, they're not from the States, they're from around the world. So when I say like, I'm a Detroiter, and they'll say stuff like, oh, 8 Mile, oh, Eminem, or they'll just like have like one thing that they know. And it's just really funny perspective on how the world views Detroit. But I've been living in Capitol Park for the last 8 years, splitting my time to Medellin, Colombia. So I watched the Renaissance and the rebirth happen, and it just felt really good. That's kind of how I got started playing music, was in the park there, and then that folded into this DJ world.
Wow, you live such a fascinating life.
I like to live fast because I have 7 siblings. I've been through the ringer with all of my condition and just traveling, that if today's going to be that day, I want it to be like the right reasons that it's that day. Like, you only get so much time, and there's still so much that I want to do.
Well, Melissa, with that, you're also such an inspiration. If people want to follow you, what is your social media? How can they find out more about your work and try to keep up with some of the projects you're doing, so when you do come back and do some cool things back here in Michigan, we can take part?
Yeah, I guess I would say the best way to find me is my first and last name, melissadimitri.com. If you want to see what we're doing in the music world, the agency is DI Techno, so ditechno.live. And that's like the best way to see where I'm at in the world, see how you can get involved. We have a lot of artists that contact us, and there's work to do. There's murals, there's things. I want people to see me as a solution maker.
That is so great. And you know what? You're also such a great representative for the city of Detroit. So we're lucky to have you. And I wonder, are they bringing back the big techno festival? Usually, people don't, a lot of people don't realize that techno music was born here in the Motor City.
Absolutely. And that's, to me, I think that was heaven sent that I'm in the same city that my whole business is formed on. That was the reasoning for my event last weekend, was to lead up to movement. So we had 4,100 check-ins on Eventbrite for my 2-day techno and art festival at Beacon Park. It was amazing. And that doesn't even count the people at the park or the people at the restaurant. That's actual check-ins over 2 days. And it was supposed to lead up into movement. I used to work for the team of organizers there for a few years as a street team leader. I wanted to share the audience, but they are now having a thing called micro movement. So it's just like in 3 different locations, like a record store and a few other things. With the pandemic and the regulations loosening up recently, like we've been saying, we've been planning this entire event under the radar for 9 months, knowing we were still going to have it. Like, there's no options.
And that's a big event and a hard event to keep under the radar. So you did a great job.
I know. I'm still feeling like we did that. We won the Spirit of Detroit Award for our efforts. So the city council was like, you guys are like really lighting the art community. And so many people have not been out in a year that it was like that first form of release. And it was raining and it was gorgeous. It was just parents were there and children were there, dogs. Like, I've never seen anything like that.
Well, keep inspiring people and keep living life. Like I said, you're definitely a bright light. So we so appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.